War tactics that actually suck. The phalanx is one of the most famous battle formations in human history. Rows of soldiers, long spears, shields locked. If the enemy walks forward, they get stabbed. If they run forward, they get stabbed faster. Simple. And for a while, it actually worked, which is why everyone copied it. The problem? The phalanx only works in a very specific fantasy scenario. Flat ground, no surprises, no flanking. Which is funny, because war is never perfect. The biggest weakness of the phalanx is that it's incredible in one direction, and terrible in every other direction. From the front, it's basically unstoppable. But from the side, it looks like a line of guys politely waiting to be murdered. Once an enemy gets around the flank, the whole formation starts crumbling. Instantly. Because the phalanx isn't built for individual fighting. It's built for standing in formation and trusting the guy next to you, until that guy is dead, or running, or tripping. Then the wall gets a hole. And a hole in a phalanx is basically a black hole. Everything collapses into it. Another issue? Turning. Phalanxes don't turn well. They turn like a forklift. So if an enemy moves faster than you basically just slowly watch yourself get surrounded. There's also terrain. Phalanxes hate hills, forests, rocks, mud, slopes, uneven ground, which means the formation only works reliably in places that look suspiciously like soccer fields, and nature didn't design the planet around Greek tactics. And then there's the human factor. Holding a heavy shield and a long spear while standing shoulder to shoulder is exhausting. Back pain exhausting. If your line gets tired before the enemy, you can't recover. You lose because your arms gave up. The phalanx also has a psychological flaw. It creates a false sense of invincibility. Soldiers feel safe inside the wall, which makes commanders overconfident. And overconfidence is the most consistent killer in military history. This is why later armies that beat phalanxes didn't try to smash through the front. They went around, they used flexible troops, they attacked flanks, they harassed. Because why punch a brick wall when you can walk around it? So the phalanx isn't a bad formation. It's a situational formation. It works beautifully in perfect conditions, but war is almost never perfect. So siege tactics. You surround a city, cut off supplies, wait. No risky assaults, no heroic charges, no big battles, just patience. In theory, you win. In reality, it's one of the most miserable ideas humans ever committed to. First problem? Time. Starvation sieges don't take days. They don't take weeks, they take months, sometimes even years. Which means you're not just besieging a city. You're camping outside it for a very long time. Another problem? Your own army also needs food. A lot of it. So while you're trying to starve the city, you're running a huge catering operation in the region. Thousands of soldiers, animals, camp followers, smiths, medics, all eating every single day. If your supply lines get cut, you become the people you were trying to starve. Awkward. Third problem, disease. Siege camps were basically open-air biohazard zones, crowded, dirty, poor sanitation, rotting food, dead animals. More soldiers often died from disease than from combat, which means the city behind the walls could literally outlast you by doing nothing. Fourth problem, morale. Starvation sieges are boring. There's no glory, no momentum, just standing around and slowly realizing this might take another year. Soldiers desert, mercenaries demand more pay, and bored armies are dangerous armies, mostly to themselves. Fifth problem, the city doesn't always surrender. Sometimes they ration. Sometimes they smuggle food. Sometimes they just endure. There are historical cases of cities surviving sieges so long that the attackers simply gave up because they were tired. Imagine explaining that. So how did the campaign go? Well, we got bored and went home. There's also an uncomfortable part. Starvation sieges mostly kill civilians, not soldiers. the defenders might still be fighting, while the population collapses. Which means even when siege warfare works, it works in the worst possible way. And here's the final issue. While you're stuck outside one city, the enemy is free to maneuver elsewhere, raise new armies, attack your territory, cut your supply routes. You've essentially glued your army in place. So starvation sieges feel safe, but they're actually slow, they're expensive, they're unpredictable, and they often hurt the attacker almost as much as the defender. Starvation siege tactics aren't clever shortcuts. They're endurance contests where nobody wins, and everyone suffers, which is a pretty good summary of siege warfare in general. Cavalry frontal charges are one of the most lied about tactics in human history. Movies teach you that if you put enough people on horses and run fast enough, you automatically win. In reality, horses are not magic. They are very expensive animals with opinions. A cavalry charge only works under one condition. The enemy is already scared. That's it. If infantry panic and break, cavalry massacres them. If infantry holds formation, the charge dies. Literally. Horses do not willingly impale themselves on walls of spears. They stop, they slow, they veer away. Because horses, unlike generals, value being alive. Which means a frontal cavalry charge into prepared infantry usually turns into a confused pile of slowing horses, riders getting shot, stabbed, or pulled off, and a commander somewhere in the back realizing he has made a terrible mistake. Another problem is density. Cavalry units are big, loud, and visible. You can see them coming. You can hear them coming. You can emotionally prepare for them coming. And surprise is kind of important in war. There's also terrain. Horses hate mud, rocks, hills, forests, ditches, which means a lot of battlefields are automatically anti-horse. Then there's weapons. Once infantry started using disciplined spear formations, pikes, and later muskets, frontal cavalry charges became increasingly suicidal. You're riding a large, fragile animal toward people whose entire job is to kill large, fragile animals. That's not bravery, that's optimism. Historically, successful cavalry was used for flanking, chasing fleeing enemies, harassment, cutting off retreats, and not for charging headfirst into steady troops. But commanders kept trying anyway, because the idea of a glorious charge is satisfying. Cavalry frontal charges didn't disappear because horses became obsolete. They disappeared because people finally accepted reality. Horses are best used where the enemy isn't ready, not where the enemy is waiting. So the cavalry charge isn't a powerful tactic. It's a finishing move. Using it as an opening move is like throwing a knockout punch before the fight starts. I really hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please consider watching my other ones. Please. 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 Please.